Hello and welcome to Meet Our Makers, an artist interview podcast produced in association with Beats Per Minute. I'm your host, Jeremy J. Facette, and on this episode, we get to meet the Swell season. The Swell season is comprised of Glen, Hansard, and Marketa, Irglova, who you may be most familiar with via their 2006 John Carney directed film, Once, which went on to win an Oscar for Best Song for Falling Slowly, and has had a really long legacy. And in this chat, though we do talk about Once, including what that legacy means to them and how they live with that legacy now in a positive way, and why they don't get sick of talking about Once, but also kind of like what a whirlwind that time was. Even though we talk about all of that, we do focus first and foremost on their brand new record, Forward, which is out now. It's their first record in many years, and we talk a lot about the songwriting, the lyrical themes, the production, the making, the creation of this record, but also kind of what led them to reconvene after so many years away from this partnership, and how excited they were to get back into the studio together after the long time away. It really sounds like a duo made this record, and I think you'll gather that from even just listening to them talk about this renewed focus, this complete sharing of artistic duty and responsibility. I think it comes through on the record. It was lovely chatting with them. I've been fans since Once, so it was really fun for me to kind of get to hook up and talk for a little while. So thank you for listening. This is me meeting the Swell season.
Good. We've got a gig, so we're gearing up to do the important work.
Yeah. No, I know. I know you have a show today, so thank you for coming to hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for doing this. It's exciting to have a record, and you're helping us spread the word, so that's wonderful.
Yeah, no, we should say, I mean, it has been a minute since the last Swell season record. The new one, Forward, is out June 13th. That's coming up quickly on Master Key Sounds and Plateau. It has been about 16 years since the last Swell season album. Why now? Why is now the time?
I was sitting in a diner in Los Angeles about 3 years ago. I was having breakfast and I was just missing Mar, and I sent her a text and I just said, do you think you'd be up for doing some gigs? It was really that simple. And then we did some gigs, and the gigs went really well, and the creative energy was flowing, and there was songs coming. And Mar has a beautiful studio. Mar and her husband Mio have a beautiful studio in Iceland. And she said, do you want to come over and we'll just, no pressure, we'll see what happens. We've got a few ideas here. Stick them down, see what we get. We went over, we recorded. That seemed to go really, really well. And suddenly we were making a record. It's really kind of like all things, how they go. It's kind of organic, you know?
Yeah. So were there even really songs before this sort of meeting, or did they kind of come with that meeting?
Yeah,
a bit of both.
Yeah, we had some ideas before that weren't connected to any one project, just ideas floating around. And then certain songs, so we would have gone and worked on those ideas and finished them, and certain songs kind of came together from scratch there were 3 separate sessions. So just somewhere in one of those, there were certain songs that just kind of appeared out of thin air, and we kind of managed to kind of pull them into the session, and they end up making the cut of the 8 songs on the album. So it's a mixture of both, for sure.
Yeah.
Sounds like it ultimately, once you guys got together and got started, that it came together relatively quickly.
Surprisingly for me, actually, because usually, I'd be one of these people who's kind of addicted to the process. I like to take a long time over records. I like to stick down an idea and go home and listen to it over and over and over, and then kind of fill it in and rewrite it and get it to a place where I feel like it's ready to do it again, see if I'm happy with it, then maybe do it again. Like I'll just keep on kind of kicking it around. Whereas working with Mar is really it's very different. It's like, boom, go in, get the idea down, stick down a version, and that's it. Move on. I like that. I have to say, it's good for me.
So she brings out a little bit of a different side of you.
A bit of urgency, a bit of
Yeah.
it's kind of, well, as well, having kids in school, and that whole thing of being economic with your time, which for I've spent a long time loafing around with songs, whereas Marketa tends to sort of get in and get them done, and then go down and pick up the kids from school.
So, I mean, you have both, it's not that you've been inactive. I mean, you have both had numerous solo albums since the last Swell season record. You've been on various tours. As you say, you did a bit of a short like Swell season tour a few years ago. But were any of them songs that you had originally intended to be sort of your own and you brought to each other to kind of help finish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Like I just write songs. I don't really write songs for myself or the Frames or the Swell season. I just write songs, and then when I get together with whoever I'm with, whether it be the Frames or Marketa, the song will take a different shape. It'll take a different color or a different tone depending on who I'm playing it with. So, but that's really the difference, you know. And then there'd be some songs I'd be like, well, I won't bring that to Mar at all because I just don't feel like it'll work in that context. I'll save that for my own thing, but not really. Honestly, it's just, here's the bones of a song. And then Mar might say, well, I like this one, but what if it went like this? And I just have to be open enough to go, sure, let's try that. Because it's a different, it's a different band. It's a different way of approaching things. And I'm glad for it because, it might take me a couple of years to finish a song, whereas with Mar, it just tends to happen pretty much there and then. And the challenge is to let go of your own creative, what's the word? When a wolf or an animal is hyper aware of its, to sort of let go of your own, hyper awareness of your own fucking bullshit, and just kind of let the song go be what it wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, by this point in your band's relationship, your personal, having known each other for so long, are you unafraid to critique each other's work and to let each other know when something's not quite working?
Yeah, I think we feel very comfortable giving each other feedback. Also, because I think we both recognize that there's never any sort of ego to it. It's just kind of trying to serve the song. I know that we both approach the music from that perspective. So I feel like whatever Glen has really strong instincts when it comes to music and otherwise. So I definitely tend to perk up and listen to whatever feedback he has for me because I've noticed it does tend to make the song stronger. You try it, you feel like how it feels. Every now and then there will be something that he'll suggest, and I'll just feel that strong about keeping it the way it was that I'll say that, and that will be the way it goes. But I do enjoy making room for the fact that here we are sort of meeting as two different elements, kind of pulling each other more to the center of kind of where we can sort of coexist in the space of this was something that works for us both. Yeah. And I think that's the exciting thing, right, about the collaboration is when you allow for that.
Exactly. And the basic rule is who cares wins. Who cares the most about the idea is the one who gets to win the argument. Is not, Yeah. And it's not personal. It's like, and one of the things that struck me about Mar from the very beginning when we started to create together was that she would say, I believe this, or I don't believe this. And that for me was incredibly helpful because, it's a rare thing to find someone in your life that you trust enough to say, I don't buy this. I don't buy this character. I don't buy this line, and that can save you an awful lot of kind of, what's the word? Kind of fluting around with your ideas. It's good. It's great to have a collaborator who can talk straight and who is coming from a place of there's no agenda with it. It's just I believe that. Don't believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you say, Glenn, that you were finding yourself, missing Marketa, and I imagine you mean both just kind of personally having, time with her in your life, but also professionally. I mean, do you feel, both of you, do you feel like you get something very different or specific out of working with the other as opposed to your solo work? Like, does it feel like quite a different experience?
Oh yeah, for me, I think perhaps for me especially because I started, with my musical journey started with the collaboration with Glen. So it was a struggle for me to kind of find a way for me to sort of continue to do music without him. To be honest, I had to kind of find my own voice, that can kind of stand on its own. I had to learn how to be the one to kind of have to hold things together, because I was really comfortable in the role of playing the support character and kind of getting to color things and sort of hold things in a way, but not necessarily have to kind of drive things forward.
Right.
And it interestingly enough, like Glenn being so much in his own sort of masculine element, it allowed me to just be in my feminine, and not have to kind of try to do both. And
Right.
I find there's a great comfort in that. Like I find, when you feel like you only have to do half the work because your partner is doing the other half. Like any other partnership, perhaps. Parenting is the same thing. Like there are certain things mothers are born to do and certain things fathers are born to do, and it's a beautiful thing to get to do it together. So I that's kind of what I love most about working with Glenn, that he's so great as like the dynamic sort of fiery sort of earth elements to the whole, while I can sort of bring the water, the emotion,
Mm,
the kind of softness, and together they just work really well. Like my work would be sort of very, very feminine, and in that way kind of polished and kind of lush, while sometimes it might benefit the songs to be a little more raw, or a little more kind of bare. Um so Glenn definitely brings me into a different place,
yeah.
in my creativity, and also just in myself. I know it is a difference when I'm on stage with him. Like I kind of relax more. It's a
Mm,
place I know so well, and I enjoy it, and I love getting to revisit it.
yeah. It's so interesting you mention it in that way, because I often kind of think about that, sort of how your voice and Glenn's voice, they're quite different. I mean, Glenn, you have a lot of sort of like grit in your voice, whereas Marqueta's is a lot more like kind of airy. It reminds me a little bit of the records that Isabel Campbell made with Mark Lanigan. Sort of, I know when they were doing that, they got a lot of like Beauty and the Beast kind of comparisons. Of course, Mark Lanigan's voice was very, very, very low.
Yeah.
And hers was very airy and high. But yeah, just kind of that yin and yang kind of thing that's
Yes.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as Mara said, the opposite is true for me. That I tend to be a bit of a bull when I
Mm,
when I sing. I can't help it. It's just how I sing. It's not an act. When I sing like that. And
mm,
so to have Mara sing very gently and quietly, and another thing that's really good is that Mara sings actually very quietly. It's like her volume is actually very quiet. So in order for me to sing with her, I need to back off a bit, because my
okay.
instinct is always to push, to sort of nose ahead. So if I'm not listening, if I'm just kind of bah, onto the microphone and not listening to Mara's harmony, or particularly if Marketa's singing the lead and I'm bah as the harmony, then I lose her. I lose the way. So I have to listen more, which means I have to oftentimes sing at half the volume I probably normally would,
Right.
which is a great challenge.
Yeah. So we mentioned, yeah, it has been about 16 years since the last record that was Strict Joy in 2009. Um, what do you think I mean, maybe this is too large a question, but what do you think some of the sort of most significant changes you've you've noticed since then to then creating this record that you think actually sort of were noticeable in the creation of this album?
Well, if I could answer that, I would say probably if you look at the first couple of Swell season records, there's probably like two or three Mar songs on the record at most.
Okay.
And then most of them are. And that just seemed to be the way it fell out. You know, it wasn't like Mar had X amount of songs and I was kind of like, no, these are what's going to go on there. It just seemed to go that whatever the collaboration between us was, Mar's contribution certainly in the songwriting with me was always there, but in terms of her own songs, there was less of them. And now, like, Mara's gone off and recorded a whole bunch of records, and she knows exactly who she is as an artist. And coming into this session, I realized and knew, of course, instinctively, but knew it anyway, that I'm dealing with a very different person now than I was then. Marketa was always much more of a supportive. No, you go ahead. There was always this thing of like, I hope you don't mind me saying it, Mark, but like, you know, you go lead it. You write the set list. You pick what the album cover is. You know, it was always letting me kind of go ahead and do it, which made sense at that time. Whereas on this album, I actually feel that Marketa has been the creative lead. I've come in with songs for sure, and we've collaborated, but in terms of the artwork and you know, even the content, Marketa made a film. I don't know how she did it actually, but while we were recording, she had a camera, but I never really noticed she was using it. It just seemed to be in her hand now and then. But somehow she managed to make like is it a 45-minute or is it even 45-minute making of film of our record, which seems to capture a lot of the creative moments. And I'm not exactly sure how she did it, but it's a particular talent. So I would say what sets this record apart from previous records is that I feel Mar has very much been in the driving seat of this one.
Would you agree with that, Marketa?
Well, to an extent, I think that a lot of that is probably because of the place we were also making the record, which was, so my husband and I have a studio in Iceland that we, Mio built and I kind of, you know, decorated. But that's kind of where we do all of our music. And so once we recorded the songs, you know, we would have, I think, both been very much sort of hands-on with like how we wanted the songs to sound. But then there's also the whole post-production of that. You know, there's the mixing and the mastering and like Glen says, that there's the putting the artwork together. And so I would say as a result of the fact that Mio was sort of producing the record and has experience in graphic design, you know, he was, in the end, he was the one to kind of put that side together with my kind of direction of like what I felt the content should be. And we were kind of, Glen was busy doing other things. So we kind of took charge of that pretty much. That's true. But it's no matter what, we agreed, Glen and I, at the beginning of this process that the rule was that we both have to like it, you know, or it doesn't make it whether that's the songs or the artwork, like we both have to be happy with it because it should represent us both. So there's been a lot of sending Glen stuff for approval and totally overwhelming his inbox. You know, it's been a very much long distance collaboration besides the 3 sessions that we had for the actual recording. But, you know, we managed to make it work. And our friends made the cover. Colin Davidson made the cover art. He's made a cover for Glen before. He's done a drawing of us for one of his exhibitions. So that feels nice. That feels like it's kind of, again, you know, working with our old friends or people that we've kind of worked with before as the same as the musicians. So we're kind of drawing on something old while working with something new. It's a nice combination, I think.
Yeah. So this record, Forward, it has a lot of, you know, in a way that is sort of what we want from you two when you guys join forces. It has a lot of those sort of big instrumental moments. There's a lot of grandness and grandeur to a lot of what is going on here musically. But I am curious lyrically what some of the driving forces were going into these songs, especially since it has been so long since we last heard you joining forces.
Yeah.
We probably both have to speak to that separately in a way, because lyrically with Mar songs, I just let Mar do her thing. in the song The People We Used to Be, of course, I wrote my verse, Mara wrote her verse, and it's basically two people having a conversation about maybe the people they used to be, which is very, very creative. But stuff like, I have to say, without kind of throwing it away, but like a song of mine called Stuck in Reverse, when I came up with that idea at the piano, I just thought, this sounds very Swell season. It sounds a bit like the guy who can't get over the girl. Maybe this would be good for the record. I didn't think too hard about it. It wasn't a confessional. It wasn't it was just like, my love, can we go backwards? To me, it just sounded like classic pop music. And I was just like, I wonder how Mara would react to this. And then Mara come up with, well, can we go backwards? Can we go back to the days before the wheels come off? And I know there's no going back now. I tried to move forward, but I'm stuck in reverse. And then Mara said, well, surely the next lyric should be, so go then. So go. And so then we hit this chord. So go. There's a world worth seeing. And it was lovely because she gave it the release. Because my character was going in whatever way the song wanted, in my kind of almost sort of Phil Spector-y type, simple pop songwriting mind was going. This person can't get beyond this moment. And it spoke lovely to how our collaboration works. Where Mara was like, so go should be the release, And then we had the song. So in terms of that kind of style of writing and lyrics, but then there's a song like Great Weight Is Lifted, which is not related at all. That would have been on my record had it not been on the Swell season. It's just a song I wrote. It wasn't kind of specific for a project, even though the project shaped the song. It wasn't specifically for that. And then a song like Little Sugar is just a real thing of like two people having a conversation and just going, well, you could have said that. You could have said what you just said a little nicer. It would have just helped me had you been a bit kinder there or whatever. And that sort of spoke to me in a way, not to say that we would have unkind conversations, but especially two creative people who are very close will occasionally have conversations that are a bit abrasive.
Yeah.
And so it just again felt like it felt like a sweet song to put in that context of the Swell season record. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but just lyrically, I was conscious of this stuff. Does this feel like a conversation between Mara and I? Because the last thing I wanted to try to sort of the last thing I think either of us wanted to do was somehow speak to some love affair that could continue, or some love that's still between us that needs to be, I think we're both very much of this thing of like, there are these songs and the songs might suggest that we're singing to each other, but, and maybe on some level there is a touch of, kind of lovely memory and it kind of lives in that liminal space, but actually, no, it's just two people creating together and enjoying it and having fun and using the language of romance as the vehicle for all of that.
Yeah. And there's like a literary element, I think, to a lot of what you guys do. There, like, even if it is inspired by or has some adjacent, parts to your lives, there is kind of like, it does feel kind of like we're listening to characters speaking and thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about you, Marketa?
I remember the 100 Words song being kind of interesting during the process, because that's one that completely came in the recording session. So we managed to kind of co-write it from beginning to end, which is only really possible when we're in the same room, as we've kind of learned. So that song is kind of dear to me because that feels very much like how we would have done things in the past. And the lyrics to that one are funny because in a way the verses speak perhaps to, subconsciously there's like just certain things that float to the surface during a creative process. And I think for me in that song, I was kind of trying to process some of the isolation that I have felt, in my years living in Iceland, and kind of disappearing into motherhood away from the music scene for 8 years, and then sort of trying to re-enter it and finding that it has changed dramatically in the 8 years that I've been missing from it, and that I'm in fact actually struggling to feel part of it in any way. and kind of feeling like I still belong to it. And then kind of Glen came in with the chorus, don't give up, don't give up, don't stop believing. And it became a kind of a hopeful thing to follow up the somewhat, because it does, there's some sadness in the verses for sure, although there is peace with the sadness. So when Glen comes in with the kind of hopeful, let's lift this up, and there's the idea of some prayer, even though I don't know what 100 words I'm talking about, but I feel like it's something to do with like just a prayer to kind of get you through, the hard times of, feeling disconnected or kind of alone. And I love that. I love that. It's a perfect example of just trying to kind of skate on the edge, like between two sides of the same coin, I suppose. I think like we do that well together. We again about the yin and yang. That's kind of a good example. And then I Leave Everything to You again completely came together in the session. We were. The session was just so beautiful, particularly this one. Glen brought his wife Myra and Christy, his son, and it was a kind of the joining of our two families, sort of coexisting in this very much sort of idyllic, beautiful, almost utopian way of all just staying at our house, playing with our children in the garden, making marshmallows, and it just felt so nice, like the dream really. And I think I was in this kind of just place of just love for the family and for this friendship and for our children, that this song was kind of born out of that, of just kind of realizing that all these moments in time, they are just moments and they pass. And some moments are just very special that you kind of keep returning to them throughout your life. And they're that special that anyone who was in them, it kind of it serves as a core memory, that shapes them, like for our kids, for example. So it made me think, like, what about when we're not here anymore? The world continues and our children are here carrying on, with whatever we passed on to them. Right. And it was a kind of a beautiful, heartfelt thing that felt like came out of that, the familial environment, where there was a lot of love and friendship and just laughter, and and while realizing that life is a flash, and then we're gone. People We Used to Be was an old song of mine that I had kind of put in a drawer for many years, and then Glen heard it and really connected to it and wanted to put it on our record, which I was really excited about, because that's the ideal scenario, that both of us are equally excited about the songs we're choosing. And even though I wrote it, about the situation I was in at the time, kind of struggling within a relationship, I felt like it fits so well for us too, in a way, because we're meeting as kind of different people, perhaps in many ways than we would have been during our last sort of joint chapter together. And it's, in a way, it relates to our past as well as the future. So that's I think what Glen was talking about as well, that even though songs aren't particularly written for us or our situation, it's easy to kind of get behind them because they kind of resonate, for a different time in our lives, or sort of that's like encapsulated. So this is certainly one that I feel also probably resonates with anyone in a relationship, or any relationship you decide is kind of worth fighting for. And the last song being Pretty Stories. Pretty Stories is kind of probably also anyone can relate, because it just speaks about the fact that we all have different versions of reality. The reality is what it is, but then we all see it through our own perceptions and our own sort of preconceived ideas. And it's interesting to sort of catch yourself doing that, telling yourself, I like that line, it's just like, wow, it's not that I didn't expect it to happen, but it just happened faster than I thought it would. Like I was just kind of busy telling myself these stories. I love the fact that we are busy with telling ourselves all kinds of stories all the time, that sometimes we just kind of really miss what's actually happening, you know?
Sure.
And it was like it felt like a kind of liberating thing, that moment of just like, oh, right. And then suddenly you have a control over the narrative, because you're not, you know, you're just like, oh, well, okay, it is what it is. I just get to choose how I react to it, you know? So I like that the end of the song just kind of ends up being like, because sometimes like I'm very emotional, and it's such an inconvenience sometimes to not be completely in control of the emotions, you know, like whether it's tears of joy or tears of sorrow. It's like, it's uncomfortable sometimes to be that vulnerable, that, you know, in front of others, that you don't want to cry, but you still can't help yourself. So the end of the song for me is just kind of like, you're not gonna cry, you're gonna get through it, you're gonna enjoy it, you know, knowing that it's the end. So like, it's worth being celebrated, you know, since you know it's ending. It's better than being taken by surprise. And just kind of like, you know, hold your head up high and be okay, you know. You can cry about it later. So yeah, that was the inspiration.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you guys brought up a few things that I was hoping to touch on, so I'm glad about that. I Leave Everything to You specifically, you know, it's one of the, if not the gentlest songs on the record. I know I talked about sort of the grandiosity of some of your songs. That one doesn't really have that sort of epic finish. It's a lot softer, it's a lot gentler. And then we get songs like Pretty Stories that end in this really like upward momentum ascent. And the closer does as well. It must feel so satisfying, I would imagine, when those big moments, when you land them and they stick the landing and you've accomplished that, because there's a lot of moving parts to these songs sometimes.
Yes.
I would imagine.
Especially tomorrow's ones. They're hard to learn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Great Weight though, for what it's worth, like I had in my notes that it reminded me a lot of like Tom Waits stuff. You know, it has sort of that instrumentally especially, but also a little melodically too. It has sort of that like bouncing, dramatic, almost theatrical kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm a massive fan, and wasn't consciously going for that, but yeah, like, you know, great way.
Yeah.
It's like, I love circus music. I love anything that reminds me of kind of just that kind of sway. That I'm just a big fan of that sound, and you know, there's something about. I just came up with that mandolin riff. It kind of reminded me of something from Turkey or something.
Mm.
And I just I started riffing on and I tried to write a song that was, you know, that was kind of specifically about positives. You know, a great weight is lifted, a great weight is gone, great waves of wonder are coming on, the clouds have parted. And I thought Mara would like this. You know, I was thinking to myself when I was writing it, Mara would enjoy this. Great waves of wonder are coming on. No fiery furnace, no toll and bell, no more wandering around the nine circles of hell. A great weight is lifted. And it was kind of a little bit about COVID had just gone, and there was a sort of a sense that the weight that had been on everyone had kind of closed. But then as I kept writing it, the lyrics kind of began to and it's a funny thing when you're writing a lyric and you can't remember it, it's probably the wrong lyric, you know, like, because I'm still having to read some of those verses, which strikes me that some of them may need to be rewritten. And so even now at the end of the song now at the gigs, there's a lyric where it goes, go circle the wagons, tell me who can we trust? We've been pushed to the margins, we've been left in the dust. We watched in silence, we saw what we saw. It's holy murder in the name of your Lord. We ruminated, we watched them divide. Now every time I raise my head, it stopped the genocide. A great weight is lifted. And so now already, because each time you sing a song, it wants to say something slightly different. Mm-hmm. It wants to speak to a different thing. So I love that. I love that a song, you know, I might be finished with it, but it's not finished with me. you know. And so I like having that bit of space in a song to allow the lyric to shift and allow the lyric to kind of guide you a bit.
Yeah. Are these songs with the sort of more upward momentum, the sort of drama built into them, the ascending sort of structures, are they always sort of planned that way, or does that sort of just happen as part of the journey?
I think it just happens because it feels really satisfying. It feels kind of satisfying to play with the dynamics of building things up and then bringing it down and then eventually kind of ending on a kind of a high note, I suppose, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, just let the music take you. And if the music takes you into a place where you're rocking, then, Jeremy, I wanted to ask you, sorry. What's the poster on your wall? The saxophone?
That's PJ Harvey.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. No, it makes sense.
Yep. She plays the sax. I don't know if everyone knows that.
Yes, I knew that. Does she play well? I've never seen her play it.
I didn't see her Hope 6 Demolition tour, but I saw footage of it, and she played on that, and I know she plays on the record, plays sax on that record. So I would imagine she's all right.
Yeah.
So we do not have to dwell on it, but can we talk a little bit about Once while I have you?
Sure.
Yeah.
First of all, are you tired of talking about Once?
No, not me anyway. Are you?
Not at all.
Okay. Because it's been a little while, and of course you guys have done many, many, many things since then, including now 2 Swell season records, various solo records. There was a whole stage show of Once, which did quite well. Were you guys involved directly in that?
No.
Okay. So it's about 18 years on, which is crazy.
Wow.
I didn't realize that myself. I had to check my notes for that one. And it sort of became this phenomenon. It's a very small film. Ultimately, it's a very small film. I would imagine it was quite low budget. Just this kind of small little indie film that ended up really taking off. It ended with you guys winning an Oscar for Falling Slowly. While you were creating this, did you ever imagine it would have any sense of this scale?
No, not at all. But when I look back on the time, similarly to what I was describing during the record making in the studio, that time felt very special. At the time I thought it was just because I was getting to cheat on school, basically. I was in high school and I was getting to take a month off to go film a movie on the streets of Dublin. And it just felt incredibly exciting and kind of like what a privilege and totally unexpected kind of blessing, and there was this wonderful, beautiful friendship between me, Glen, and John, the director, and his wife Marcella, actually, and our friend David Cleary, who took the stills from the movie. So the 5 of us hung out a lot. Actually, David's girlfriend Diane as well. So I guess we were 6, and we would just do a lot of. We would hang out. We'd have these conversations. We would, go out dancing. We had like a really great time around that whole like sort of Once chapter. And at the time it just felt like, this is maybe just what life feels like, I don't know. I just I didn't really know what kind of my life should or would hold. And then as time goes by, and I would think back on it, I started to realize that no, there was just something about that time it was almost like it was blessed, like there was something else sort of invisible that was present, and it changed us. Like we were, whatever we kind of brought forward from us came from a place that I'm not really even sure yet what it was, but it was almost like there was some sort of other force behind it, sort of that brought it together. And I have since kind of felt that energy, like the Oscar nights. That was a night where that kind of peaked for me. I think, I felt like here it is again, but like in the full like blast. It was kind of like the sun version of it, and so I do feel like there's something about it that I can't put down to anything in particular, except to say that there was a certain kind of energy or magic or God, whatever your version of that is, that stepped in and created something that we got to kind of be part of and bring through us. But it was very blessed, and I still, whenever I think about it or talk about it, I have utmost respect for that. That's why I still love playing the songs.
Mm-hmm.
I still love talking about the movie. It's never become anything I could ever be sick of. And so even though we didn't know that it would get to the place it did, all that I can say is obvious looking back is that it was always going to be special, even if just to us. But I'm very glad that it became special to so many people, because it really has touched so many people's hearts and brought so many people together. And the stories I hear, like, I'm always just kind of, that it keeps reinforcing that belief in me,
Mm. Yeah, I mean, Marketa, you were so young. I forget how young you were when that film was made, because there is such, and I'm sure Glenn and if John were here, I'm sure he'd agree too, but there's such a maturity in your performance in that film that, like, I remember seeing it because I didn't know how old either of you were at that time when I first saw it. I found out soon after I saw it, but I remember seeing it and being totally not, it was not crossing my mind that you were that young at all. I mean, your character is not really that young either, so that probably helps, but then also just the way you carry yourself and especially musically, I think a lot of The Hill in that film, specifically in the film, that scene where that song occurs. And then I found out that you were like 17 when you made it. It's great. It's crazy. And it must be very strange in a good way, I think, but it must be very strange to look back on that knowing you were 17 when all of this occurred, because it was a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And even more so now that I have a daughter of my own, who's like soon will be reaching that age. And and now I'm suddenly, reaching 40. So
yeah.
So it is mad. But again, I just feel like everything about how things happened was just, it was kind of like it was written, it was always going to happen that way. There's like free will involved, of course, for everyone on earth. So I could have stepped away from it. I could have not taken the opportunity, I could have let it pass me by, or something could have gotten in the way. But I think everything about how it happened exactly like that, because it was supposed to, so
Yeah.
so and even the songs that came during that time, I don't think I'd be able to write those kind of songs again. You know what I mean? That like, I don't, they kind of feel removed from age, or, me, or even me personally. They're just, I feel like I just sort of channeled it or something. Like it came through me and my experiences and whatever, myself, like this, I kind of see it like a sieve, you're the sieve, and the energy passes through and it gets kind of colored by your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, and all of that. But like, the exciting part is just kind of letting that come through, and be what it is. So it shaped the way I approach music, to be honest. And even now today, I still see myself as just that, like a channel, really. I that's what I always hope for, that the energy will come and I'll get the joy and the kind of the blessing of kind of shaping it into what I'd like it to be in some way, kind of working with the raw clay and shaping it into something. But it's I'm not sure even a lot of the time how much I can take credit for it,
Well, I mean, a lot of it comes as well down to John's a really great filmmaker.
Yes.
And that was kind of his first breakthrough film, even though he was just making another film.
Right.
And Cillian Murphy was to play the guy. Marketa, Marketa's character was written for like a 35-year-old Eastern Europe, non-specific Eastern European woman. And John had an experience where he had met this woman, had brought her to a guitar shop and played bass for her, and the two of them had this, and she was like, "Oh, I play piano." So he had an experience, something similar to the piano shop scene in the movie, and I think he decided to base that whole movie around this scene where two unlikely people from different cultures kind of come together and have a connection rather than a romance. you
Right.
know, and so in the film, I mean, it's really down. I mean, you have to give John a lot of credit on this. He really knew how to direct two people who weren't actors, because
Right.
neither of us. I mean, I was in the Commitments, but I was a non-actor in the Commitments too. So I had a tiny bit of experience. Mara had none, but was a very capable person. So when a bunch of capable friends got together, we kind of just, you know, created together, and it was a powerful thing.
Yeah. Did you you won the Oscar for Falling Slowly, which I'm sure was a huge night, as you say. If I remember correctly, uh, you guys beat out like 3 songs from Enchanted, which was
Yeah.
huge, huge. But did you feel like a shift at all after the Oscars? Like, was it noticeable that things had changed, or did things kind of carry on?
It's a tricky question for me. It's a tricky question because everything changes and nothing changes.
Sure.
You know, your life is immediately different, and yet every day is the same. You know, you're doing the same things, but just everything around you has shifted, and you have to reevaluate the whole world actually in a way, because uh, it's like, you know, if you've spent your whole life kind of struggling to be heard and struggling to connect, because that's, you know, as a musician, all you're looking to do is really connect,
Yeah.
you know, especially if you were a busker, and if you were out there trying to make some coins on the street, and then suddenly you go home to your hometown, and you're not just somebody whose film did well. You're an Oscar winner,
Right.
which has a whole other kind of currency to it. I definitely, like, I won't say struggled is the wrong word, but I definitely had to adjust. It was a funny old time for me, I have to say.
Yeah.
And I think probably the time when I lost grip on my own reality, if I'm really honest, I kind of lost the plot a bit. As in, not in any major way, not in any way I can, you know, there's not any kind of great moment of like I didn't get into drugs or, you know,
Hmm.
but just definitely it took me a couple of years to get my equilibrium back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in a great way too, you know.
Yeah. Um, do you ever find yourself thinking about like where these people would be now?
No, actually, do you? No.
Their story's over.
Yeah, as in like the two characters from the film.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, like that. John, and Mara and I have discussed, you know, had there ever been a sequel, where they would be. And there's been a couple of lovely because John's a great writer. There was a couple of great, it's simple. I mean, I don't want to give out in a way in case John ever decides he does want to film it with other people or whatever. But just that, you know, the characters, you know, Marketa's character was so uh, just salt of the earth, a good human
Mm,
who let's just say when the guy went off to find his girlfriend in London or wherever at the end of the film, Marketa's character, she stayed true to even his dad. She went and looked after him. She stayed in the guy's life without being in the guy's life, if that makes sense.
yeah.
So she was honorable. And I think what was lovely about Enda Walsh's kind of stage book of the musical was that he makes her the hero. Now, not to say that in the movie she's the hero also, but in the movie it's a little more subtle.
Hmm.
You know, because she's the one who kind of holds fast to the idea of like, this is a friendship. I'm really glad I met you, and I'm really glad this worked out. Now
Right.
you go get your girl back, and you know. So there's just I just think that the female character in Once is the hero.
Yeah.
The guy would have just tried his luck, and you know,
Yeah.
and but he was, you know, he was kind of he rediscovered his own confidence through her insistence.
Yeah.
You know,
So, this new record, Forward, it's coming out June 13th, very soon. You guys are literally playing a show tonight. Where are you right now?
Hamburg.
Okay. You have a few more European dates. You're coming over here to North America in the summer. Um, what's been your favorite part about sort of playing these new songs on the road? Because the record's not out yet. So, I mean, how has it felt playing the new songs out for an audience?
It just felt really good to play them along with the older songs somehow. You know, that's kind of what's made the concerts even more enjoyable for me, that the old songs are there, but then every now and then we'll throw a new song in, and they're kind of nestled in with the songs that people are already familiar with. And my hope is always that these newer songs at some point will reach a place with the newer material that, you know, you'll be playing those songs and people already know them, you know, they've already listened to the record. And because it's always different when people are kind of receiving a new song. I think people enjoy it, but it's nicer for them when they're familiar with it. They've kind of looked forward to hearing with it, and kind of, you know, I think they really appreciated them when they hear them live. So at the moment we're even finding our footing with the new songs, you know, they'll be in different tempos, or like will be some nights we feel like we really nailed them, and some nights we feel like, you know, they're still kind of just forming in their live versions still, I think. Yeah.
All right, well, again, Forward is out June 13th. Marketa and Glen, I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you for hanging out for a little bit.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to hear the album. It's been a while, and we are happy you're back. So welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
All right, take care, guys.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.